All right. Okay, so this is a special edition of the Nikki Maduro Show. We are going live because the verdict in the Donald Trump hush money case is coming in live. What I'm going to do, I don't know if YouTube's going to ding me for this, but I've got a subscription. I'm going to bring up CNN. You guys let me know in the comments because I've never done this before. If you guys can still hear me while CNN is on. So we are watching. The jury has reached a verdict. So you can see it right there. I'm assuming you guys can still hear me. Oh, and good. Oh, Kim McAllister is joining us. Oh, hello, my friend.
Hi.
I am so happy. So I have CNN up. I'm going to turn on the volume a little bit just so we can listen.
10 minutes or so. So we are really...
Okay, so you just heard Jake Tapper there say, I'm going to keep him a little low in the background, about 10 minutes or so. Actually, that's a little distracting. Oh, my God. So you were kind of right. You were right. I did not think...
I was just in the middle of Thursday trivia when Phineas popped in to say, oh, there's a verdict reached. And then we've been talking about that just a little bit. So I'm so glad you decided to come on live because I think we really need to do this together. I feel like if I had a prediction.
Okay, let's put our bets in.
I think it's guilty. What do you think?
Guilty? I mean, okay. Well, one, he's facing a lot of counts. This is going to take a while, right? So I think like 10 minutes
34
ago.
34 counts. Don't they have to go and read each count on the count of
and then they have
blah,
to
blah,
ask,
blah.
did you agree with this and what have you? Also, remember, they asked for 30 minutes to fill it out. I don't know. I don't know. And I was doing a little bit of chores around the house and kind of brainstorming of what my reaction would be. And you guys let me know in the comments what your reaction would be as well. It doesn't matter what the verdict is. I feel like half the country is going to think it was total BS, right? Like if he's found guilty on something, the MAGA people are going to be like, it was totally rigged. And vice versa. So I don't know. I really, really don't know what to expect right now. I don't. And again, like they are, it's so funny. And you know this, Kim, when you have to stretch for a little bit because we're waiting on the juries. The Manhattan DA is there. The clerk is in. The judge has just called for the jury to come in. So they're going to start walking in just a few moments. Now, again, this isn't like any other trial where we could see what's going on. We kind of just have to wait until CNN basically announces it because they have reporters in there. So we're kind of, that's why I want to have CNN up right now is because that's the way that we're going to be able to have it. So a few more court officers are in the courtroom, standing in the aisle and around the room. Phineas says, get the National Guard ready.
Yeah, a lot of people are worried that if the whatever way the verdict comes in, whether if it's guilty, that Trumpers are going to storm the streets. If it's not guilty, then people that are anti-Trumpers or never Trumpers, I think they're a little less crazy, but that could happen as well. So there is a risk that people are going to freak out one way or another. Here.
Absolutely. Louise, thank you so much for the $10 donation. Thank you both. Have those kids take an Uber. Seriously, thank you for doing it. So appreciate you both. Yeah. And Kim, when you have to leave. I mean, I will be here. I don't anticipate it taking an hour. So let's hope that it comes down within the next 10 minutes or so. But thank you so much for the $10 donation. At the very least, you guys subscribe to the show. Make sure you click that thumbs up button. And again, if you can financially support the show, because we love doing it, please do. I'm just going to throw it in right now. TheNikkiMaduroShow.com. Our Patreon link is there. We are keeping our promise of trying to be here during the big news days like today.
Right.
Okay, so let's just go through it since we have some time. What do you guys think in the comments? If he gets completely off, not guilty, across the freaking board, what do you think? Are you going to lose your mind? I mean, how do we reconcile that?
So the latest is that judge is on the bench.
Right.
The jury is seated, and he has asked if the parties are ready for the jury. Both sides are saying yes. A few more court officers are now in the courtroom, and they're standing in the aisle around the room. So this is what it looks like in the courtroom. People standing in the aisles waiting for this verdict to come in.
I mean, you guys, this is history. I don't want to make it seem like we're, exploiting something. This is the very first time a U.S. president has stood trial for criminally. Oh my God. I don't know what I'm going to do. William says not guilty.
You think so, huh?
John says if he's found not guilty, he's going to look like a fool saying he can't get a fair trial. Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Bring the cameras in the courtroom. Yeah, that was one of the things. They're protecting the jurors.
Yep.
They're protecting their identity because can you imagine? Remember the election workers that got hounded by MAGA people? Can you only imagine if he is found guilty? How freaking scared they must be.
Well, it's been a bit of a circus at some points outside of the courtroom. There are throngs of reporters out there. They had Robert De Niro out there giving speeches. Yeah, I mean, there's Trumpers flying flags out there. It's a little bit crazy outside the courtroom, and I'm afraid that maybe people are right, especially outside the courtroom, that things could start to grow and grow and grow.
Yeah.
Lori's saying that we're all being ridiculous, herself included, which I don't agree with. I mean, I understand your thought there, but I really agree with Nikki on this case that this is history. This is the first time that a former president is facing criminal charges in this country. So this is something historic, and I think it's really important, especially since it's not just a former president, but it's the candidate that currently has the nomination to be president again. So, I mean,
Count one, guilty. Count one of Donald J. Trump. He has been found guilty. So let's get this ball rolling. I'm going to turn up CNN just because they're going to be able to read it live. Here we go.
420. Here come the verdicts. We have the verdicts. Okay. Count one is guilty. That is a felony charge. Count one, falsifying business records. Count two, also guilty, falsifying business records in the first degree.
Oh my
Count
God.
3, guilty, falsifying business records in the first degree. Count 4, guilty. That's another felony charge, falsifying business records in the first degree. Count 5, guilty. That's another falsifying business record in the first degree felony charge. So that is 5 felony charges.
My God.
That Donald Trump has been found guilty by this New York jury. We still have 29 other felony counts to go, but that is 5 guilty verdicts by this jury when it comes to felony charges of falsifying business records in the first degree in service.
Is everybody else
crime,
just
and that crime would be
so happy right now? I can't be the only
Stormy
one.
Daniels hush money.
It feels emotional, doesn't it?
Guilty.
Oh my God.
So that is 6 charges.
6.
Count 7, guilty.
Oh my God.
That is another charge. Count 8, guilty. That is yet another charge. 8 out of 8, he has been found guilty.
Oh, he must
Count
be
9,
pooping his
guilty.
pants.
So that is 9 out of 9. Count 10, guilty. Another felony charge, falsifying business records in the first degree.
There we go, buddy.
Count 11, guilty. Another felony charge of
OMG.
falsifying business records in the first degree. Count 12, guilty. Another felony charge, falsifying business records.
Does this mean he's going to go to jail?
Count 13, guilty. Another felony charge of falsifying business records in the first degree.
Jake Tapper is so happy to be
Count
reading this
14,
right now.
Guilty. Count 15.
Yes,
Guilty.
they're
That is
felonies,
15
John.
out of
They're all
15 so
felony
far.
falsifying business
Count
records.
16. Donald Trump found guilty. 16 out of 16 when it comes to falsifying business records in the first degree. Count 17. Guilty. That is from a July 2017
You know how much he must be pissed to
payment
sit there and
Michael
listen to
Cohen.
all these
Count
guilties?
18. Guilty. That is another felony charge.
My
Count
God.
19. Guilty. Another felony charge. Falsifying business records in the first degree. Count 20. Guilty. Another felony charge, falsifying business records in the first degree. Count 21, 20 and 21, both guilty. This is for an August 2017 payment. So is count 22, also guilty. Count 23, guilty, also guilty.
Who wants
Donald
a clean
Trump found guilty
sweep?
of
I mean, I'm
falsifying
here for
business
the
records in the first
clean
degree.
sweep.
Count 24, guilty, another felony charge. Count 25, guilty, another felony charge, falsifying business records in the first degree. Count 26.
Look,
Guilty,
felony,
another
felony.
charge, falsifying business
Send his
records
ass
in the
to
first
jail.
degree. Count 27, guilty, another felony charge, falsifying business records in the first degree. Count 28, guilty, another felony charge, falsifying business
God.
records in the first degree. Count 29, guilty, felony charge, falsifying business records in the first degree. Count 30, guilty.
It's all
felony
guilty.
charge,
All
falsifying
34
business records.
guilty.
Count 31.
Oh, there
guilty,
you go, people.
Falsifying business records in the first degree. Count 32.
They're going to appeal, though.
Guilty. Falsifying business
They
records
will.
in
A
the
clean
first degree.
freaking
Only 2 counts
sweep.
left. Count 33. Former President Donald Trump found guilty.
Yep.
Falsifying business records. Count 34.
Oh my God. There we
Guilty.
go.
Donald Trump found guilty on all 34
Wow.
counts of falsifying business records in the first degree.
Wow.
All 34 are felonies. Donald Trump has now been convicted of 34 different felony crimes
So now
by a jury of his peers in Manhattan. 34 felony charges for former President Donald
Me
J.
too.
Trump, convicted of 34 felony charges having to do with falsifying business records to cover up hush money payments.
I guess those signatures on those checks really bit you in the ass, Donnie.
An unbelievable moment in American history.
Oh my God.
The jurors are now being asked about their agreement with these charges, and they are responding yes.
Okay.
Trump has a frowned expression on his face
As
the
normal.
verdict reading is completed. He is not moving. Before the former president of the United States, now a convicted felon, having been found guilty
convicted
of
felon. Now,
34
is he going to get
felony
more
charges
votes
by
for
a
this? He's
jury
going to raise money
of his
on this.
peers in Manhattan, New York. The court officer is asked if either party wants the jury polled. Trump attorney Todd Blanche says yes. This is when they go around and ask each juror if they agree.
All right, so
with what has,
I'm gonna shut this off right now.
Why does it feel so emotional? I mean, does it feel like, I think for me it's because we've seen him just be the worst person.
Yes.
And do all these things and
finally
never
getting
have
his.
to pay the piper.
Yes.
And it feels like we've been waiting for, like, you can't do this. You can't break the law and you're not above it. And it feels like it's time. Like, like it's, I don't know, it's kind of cathartic for everyone else to go, you know what? No. This doesn't play. This is not the way to do things.
You know what it is, Kim? You know when you buy new pans and the Teflon just wears out and the egg stick? Teflon Dawn is done. And oh my gosh, did you do this, Kim McAllister? I adore you. I adore you. David Katz is joining us. Are you kidding me right now?
Former federal prosecutor, now defense attorney in Los Angeles, my favorite legal analyst, David Katz.
Thank
we
you so much
stole
for
you from
coming
the Mark
on.
Thompson show.
Thank you.
Here we are on the Nikki Maduro show. Nikki, David, I don't know if you know each other.
I know the voice face to face, though. Thank you.
Nikki, I encouraged you to go to law school 5 years ago when we were on Pat Thurston's show together, and you stayed on the radio and in the media, and probably a wise decision because you've been terrific, and I've heard great things about you.
All right, David. So I guess your reaction's clean sweep, all felony convictions. Put this in perspective for those of us that are just enjoying everything oh so very much.
Well, I was just on KNX radio. That's 97.1 FM down here, and it was remarkable because the jury had not stated the verdict yet, and so I was on the show both before they stated it, and I got the question, well, let me puncture your confidence that Trump is going to be convicted of felonies. Well, hold on a second before I ask you that question. And then they came in guilty. Yeah. The reporter read off that there were 34, I guess 34-0. Trump, the big loser again. Remember, Trump was the guy who took a bigger tax deduction, lost more money than anyone in American history, the big tax loser, now the big criminal case loser. And I think people sort of lost the perspective of how strong this case came in and how well the prosecution did with it, because Trump came out every single day and said it was a nothing burger, and brought all of his MAGA friends from Congress into the courtroom with their crazy matching red ties. I don't have a red tie on.
I have red, but I don't want it for that.
Red sweater. Yeah,
I know.
But Nikki, I guess the thing of it is that the prosecution can't go out, and I don't want to live in a country where the prosecution goes out every day and puts out a press release like Trump did. But I think people forgot that they were just hearing really one side of the story, and I always thought the case should have been, televised. I thought it would have had much more of an impact with people if they'd have seen the testimony. It was so awkward. There wasn't even an audio feed. I mean, the U.S. Supreme Court even has an audio feed. They didn't even have that. So all those reporters trying to look down, trying to be lively and engaging with their audience and look down and say, okay, what are they reporting from the courtroom was the testimony. It was such a disjointed way to see it. But I think, one of the key things is that Michael Cohen had been much more agitated. He got angry much more in the civil trial. And yet in the civil trial, the jury returned a verdict of $500 million against Trump. And the judge found that he was a very credible witness. So why would you think that a New York jury here would totally disregard everything that he had to say? And yes, he was as the New York Post said, a liar, a perjurer, a thief, a manipulator, a ranter and raver. And guess what? He told us what really happened with regard to what Trump knew. And, the fact that Trump chose to associate, could have any lawyer he wanted in New York City. This is the one that he chose for years to be his fixer, right? To be his lawyer. And if he was totally dishonest and disreputable, well, that's who Trump wanted to be his attorney, his advocate with people. And so I just thought, it was the same old thing, Nikki and Kim, with Trump that you always get, that, there's all this empty rhetoric. And you look at the case that he tried to present. He called one witness of any significance. I thought he was going to call that body man to say that, that 96-second phone call, the body man remembers it. It was all about the 14-year-old stalker. But they didn't put him on. They didn't put anybody on except this Costello guy. And it was pretty obvious that what Costello was doing there was he trying to fish information out of Cohen to use for Trump. He was always on the Trump team trying to manipulate himself. And so I thought the way it came through to the jury was, okay, Trump has this big witness, and guess what? All the things that they're saying, all the names that they're calling, all the pejorative things they're saying about Michael Cohen, look at the guy they just called. Look at the guy they just called, who was, again, trying to just get intelligence, for the Trump camp out of Cohen, didn't care at all about Cohen. And they acted like the prosecution was just going to sit there and take all the incoming blows and not have cross-examination. And then you saw the cross-examination of Costello was that he had written an email, I guess, to his son. He said he didn't want to be Cohen's lawyer. He bragged about being Cohen's lawyer to his son. And then he said the guy is an a-hole. And what is Cohen, the a-hole, doing, taking on the most powerful man in the world? So I think Costello saw Trump as being someone who was very powerful, maybe would be very powerful again. And I think that he just wanted to make his bed, Costello, with Trump, didn't care at all about Cohen. And, of course, Cohen told him a story that Trump didn't have anything to do with it at the time, because that was the side that Cohen was on too. So I thought that the defense was really terrible. I thought it was a big step backwards. And as the case went on, I became more confident, especially with the jury instructions, that it was going to result in convictions of Trump for felonies, as it just has.
Yeah. Now, let's clarify this, because we're being asked, convicted felons, can they vote?
He can run for president. He can serve as president. The funny thing is that if convicted before November, he may not be able to vote for himself, but he can serve as president. It's an oxymoron. It's an absurdity about our justice system. But, the Constitution has certain disqualifications, and only those. And so if you're, whatever it is, over 30, naturally born in the United States, what's the other one? You can be in prison
35, yeah.
Yeah, 35. Kim and I joked about the fact that, technically he could be president serving a term at Rikers Island prison. He could. Yeah.
That's crazy to me.
He could make Macron go through the magnetometer before they had a diplomatic tete-a-tete, president of the United States and the leader of France. That's not going to happen. I don't think, Nikki, that he's going to get jail time in this case.
Why? That's 34 felonies, David. 34 felonies. I would go to jail. 34 felonies. I would go to jail. Why?
Nikki, you, me, and Kim. Yeah, we would all go to jail. I think just to be sort of, cold and just sort of make a legal prediction about what's going to happen with him. The case is on the old side. The case is a little on the technical side. Now, it's true, but you ask yourself, Nikki, there are a lot of people who've done campaign finance violations who've not reported, starting with John Edwards. Remember him? And his was probably more spectacular, a campaign violation. You remember that? Because he had the mistress and everything was stated the wrong way and this and that and the other thing. And they went on him federally, which they didn't on Trump. And they couldn't convict him. He had a hung jury, and then the Department of Justice dropped the case. So I just think in the whole context here, how old it is, how at least arguably technical it is, bookkeeping thing, that the fact that they're felonies is just not going to, and I'm not sure that the people who think that it's very well deserved, if you step back from it and you think, okay, would that really be good? I mean, would that make people more likely? I was on one of these conservative stations. They claim they have a poll that more people will vote for Trump if he's convicted as he just was, found guilty as he just was, than if he was acquitted. Now that may be whistling by the graveyard for them, right? That may be just a spin on it. But it does not seem to have moved the needle. When you look at Stormy Daniels' testimony, you would think, how
well, hold on. I just want to stop you right here, David, real quickly, because Trump's speaking. So let's hear what he has to say.
And the whole thing, we didn't do a thing wrong. I'm a very innocent man.
Of course.
And it's okay. I'm fighting for our country. I'm fighting for our Constitution. Our whole country is being rigged right now. This was done by the Biden administration.
Oh, God. I mean, talking point.
Same old thing. Same old song and dance. Blah, blah, blah.
And I think it's just a disgrace.
Oh, poor baby.
And we'll keep fighting. We'll fight till the end and we'll win. Because our country's gone to hell. We don't have the same country anymore. We have it divided.
All right. Okay. That's all I needed. He's saying the same crap that he always says. So, okay, go ahead, David. I'm sorry.
Well, he's saying, and what always has amazed me about him is, I've been with some really articulate right wingers. He's not one of them.
No.
I just have never understood. He's not a good speaker. I never have understood his appeal. To me, he has a total lack of charisma. But I don't know. I mean, one theory is that, he's tall and he's white. And is that all it takes?
Yeah,
I guess so.
Well, the sentencing hearing is set for July 11th. That's close to the Republican National Convention, which apparently is on July 15th. Kind of awkward, I would say, for the Republican National Convention to be like, ladies and gentlemen, your candidate for president, convicted felon, Donald J. Trump. But that's just
Nikki, I've thought long and hard about this because I'm commenting on this case and in different forms too, different viewpoint stations and things like that. But I just, and I get the idea that he's a convicted felon. This took a lot of plotting. He approved this, 2 or 3 different ways. And it wasn't election interference. I mean, had this come out in the 2 weeks before the election, which is when Stormy Daniels was threatening that she was going to bring it out, and he just had the Access Hollywood tape that was so damaging with women, swing voters, people that he really needed against Hillary. And I think the outcome of the election might have been quite different. Of course, if Comey hadn't have done what Comey had done in violation of DOJ guidelines, that would have made a big difference too. And then I guess from the other side of it, if Hillary had gone to Wisconsin once or twice more.
That would have helped too. Exactly. Mistakes.
Right. Mistakes. But I guess I just don't think that he's going to be sent to prison. You start to think that through. I think he might get home arrest, although that's inconvenient too. It may
for
also
him, not for me. I mean, it's totally convenient
for campaigning.
Right? Nobody. I don't care about campaigning. He can campaign from the bunker that he always joked about with Joe Biden. You know what I mean? How's the bunker, Trump?
But Nikki, here's my thing. Okay, if they had said like in this, if the judge had said in this case, okay. If the judge had said, I know New York law in general requires a criminal defendant to be in the courtroom, even though the criminal defendant is presumed not guilty, presumed innocent. But you know what? I'm making a special exception in this case. You can go anywhere you want to and come here. I think the judge got played, Nikki, by not making that ruling, because I think Trump would have been there almost every day anyway. And Trump would have been denied this rhetorical flourish of his, right? That I was forced to be here. I was pinned down. Can you imagine Alabama or Texas that they charged Biden with something and he got pinned down, during the Democratic National Convention or during August or September when he needed to campaign? It just seemed like it played into the hands of Trump. And I think that any kind of home detention or prison sentence would play into his hands. I just think, Nikki, it would play into his hands. And, I think the people who really care about this, like I know you do, Trump being president again for 4 years.
No,
I mean, that's something
for the country.
Right. That's something that I think people who care about it want to try to avoid at all costs. And so anything that helps him or helps Trump's rhetoric, why should the judge play into that? I mean, the sentencing should be based on all kinds of equitable and justice considerations. And People said the contempt, maybe he'll get held in contempt now. Maybe the judge will say, you violated the gag order. But let me just say this, Nikki. I think the gag order in some ways was not well thought through, because I think as to jurors, absolutely, Trump was way out of line. But as to people like Michael Cohen and Stormy Daniels, who were blasting Trump in the media, that he wasn't allowed to blast back in any way, that would be very unpopular. If he's now given, I don't know, like 2 days in jail because he blasted back at Cohen or Stormy Daniels, then that's how Trump would characterize it. So I do think at the end of the day, he's been a convicted felon. He'll always wear that. I think there's an appeal, but the appeal won't be heard until after the November election.
Okay,
and so if you're enjoying and reveling in this, I don't think that you need to have a prison sentence on top of it, because this was.
David, I kind of have to disagree with you. I would sleep very well. I would sleep very, very well. I don't care if it plays into his hands. I don't care if sending him to prison will look bad. So I want it all, David. Am I being selfish? I want it all. I think I speak for many people. You know what? I don't care how it looks. I don't care if people say, oh my God, it's like, I don't care. Go to prison. Don't campaign. Have an ankle bracelet. All of it. He deserves all of that and then some. I mean, my bitterness is showing here. I get it.
One last thing. And I mean, 4 more years of him, the environment.
I know, right? Women's rights, everything, David.
Can the planet survive it? The 3 justices on the Supreme Court. Imagine if not Democrats appointing justices to the Supreme Court, not expanding the Supreme Court to 11 or 13 members, as I advocate, and as Adam Schiff, who's running for the Senate, also advocates, because we've gotten to the point where the Supreme Court is so biased and loaded, with right-wing ideologues. And all you name all of the issues, but especially the economy, women's right to choose, racial justice in America. So we can't have symbolic things, in my opinion, politically, not legally. We can't have things that are symbolic, as satisfying as they are in some ways, for the future. Not 4 more years of this guy, not 4 more years.
A quick question before we let you go. The 34 counts involved 11 invoices, 12 vouchers, and 11 checks. That's kind of how it all panned out. And so I'm wondering if you ever saw a verdict that could have found him guilty on some and not on others, or if it was always they were so entangled and so similar that it was going to be an all or nothing thing here.
I think they're all entangled. As I understand it, he wrote the checks the first year of his presidency, 2017. And the checks, the 12 checks together totaled the $420,000. And each one of them was phony, because each one of them said that they were legal expenses and were going to be written off. At the very least, they're going to be written off as ordinary necessary business expenses, and they weren't. He wasn't really paying a lawyer for legal services. And you remember all that? They didn't have a retainer. Well, it must have been an oral retainer. Who has an oral retainer for $420,000? And, Trump was a guy, if you presented the dry cleaning bill to him, he said, how many shirts? So there was no way that he was going to pay $420,000. He was meticulous. He was a penny pincher. He bragged about that in his books. And so all of them the whole 420 was wrong. And so the 12 divisions of it as checks were all phony, Kim. The entries in the books that said that they were legal expenses when they weren't, they were phony. So they all dovetailed. They were all phony. So once they started felony conviction on count 1, it was pretty clear that they were just going to read off 2 guilty, 3 guilty. There is a lively appeal over this issue. And even if he were given jail time, any court would allow him what they call bail pending appeal. And so he wouldn't actually go in before the election.
So we should just enjoy this moment, is what you're telling me, David. Like, this could be, I am. I'm not going to let the future, I'm not going to let, he might not go. I am loving this moment. I am so glad that you are here to share it with us, because at some point, I'm just so happy that he finally wasn't able to weasel his way out of committing. And it's, not murder or anything like that, but it is a crime. He's been convicted 34 times. And now he can add that to his resume. David.
One last thing. Yes. He was called to account. There was accountability here. While he might win the appeal, think about this. Suppose it had gone the other way. So you're an awful lot happier, an awful lot happier than if it gone the other way. If I've had clients, I've gotten acquittals. I've gotten total acquittals, and the client said, you can't believe what I've been through, the stress, paying you, Mr. Katz, this and that and the other thing. And I have said, think if it had gone the other way. So let your happiness be unmitigated and untreated
Oh,
Okay.
David Katz, thank you so much for joining us.
Nikki,
You
it's
really
so
put a
nice
cherry on.
after all these years. Nikki, I
Yes.
want to remind you of one thing. You and I debated. There was a judge in the Stanford area,
Okay.
and he had, I guess they were recalling him, and they did successfully.
I do remember
recall
that.
That was over
and
the
you and I
case of that
discussed
swimmer.
that issue of the recall. Kim, you were there too. You were
Yeah.
doing the news on that show. And Nikki, you and I had a lively discussion about it. I was on the side of, well, while what he did was probably worthy of being recalled, we don't want to get in the habit of recalling judges over their decisions. But I think you had the better of that argument. He was recalled, and for that, he deserved to be recalled.
Exactly. Oh, well, I love that you remember that. I do. And I love your analysis, and I appreciate you coming on. I know you're on Mark's show all the time, but in this historic moment, I'm so glad that we could share it together.
Huge
David Katz.
thank you.
Thank
Be
you
happy,
so much.
Nikki. Be happy.
This grin is not going away all day, David. Not all day. I don't care what happens. I can get in an accident and I'll still be happy. David Katz, thank you so much. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you, David Katz.
Great to be with you too, Kim.
Bye.
Okay, bye-bye. Ah, Kim, thank you so much for doing that. That is
I
so
know.
awesome.
I brought the big guns.
Thank you so much for everybody in the chat. I mean, so that's it. I mean, thank you guys for being here. I'm so glad that we could be live, and it's just now I'm getting emotional. I'm so glad that we were able to experience. This is literally a historic moment together on the Nikki Maduro show, and I know I'm so jubilous and there's MAGA people that hate me right now. I could give two craps about how you feel. Cry more. Just cry more. Because that's what you would be telling me if the roles were reversed. So I'm going to be petty. I'm so happy that he was found guilty. I am so freaking happy.
Well, it finally feels like a taste of justice, right?
Exactly.
For all of us. And this isn't a case where it's where they're looking at, a civil case between him and someone else.
Exactly.
Like the E. Jean Carroll case. This is a public criminal case. And it's finally a moment where he's held to account.
Exactly. And so thank you all for being here. I do want to give some big thank yous. And again,
Sorry, my phone.
Kim is partying over in her house right now.
There's a big party.
Let me do some thank yous really quickly before we let you guys go. Luis coming in for $10. Thank you so much. We appreciate you being here as well. Also, Luis with another $5 donation says if he's found guilty, which he was, it'll give rise to the Orange Lives Matter movement.
Yeah.
He will immediately start fundraising off this. Absolutely. I'm sure the text messages have already been sent. Wes, thank you so much for the $5.
Yes.
Jim, thank you for the $5. Jill, thank you for the $5. Ren coming in with $34 and a woohoo. A woohoo that. Thank you. Luis, another $5 for bringing on David Katz and 5 for live for Harry. Thank you guys so very much. We can't do the show without you. Again, click the thumbs up. Make sure you are subscribed. And thank you guys so much for being here. If you can donate, become an official Madorable. Our Patreon is live, theNikkiMadoroShow.com. Patreon link is there. PayPal as well. TheNikkiMadoroShow@gmail.com is the email that you send. And thank you guys so much. We will be back here tomorrow. Have a great one. It's a good damn day.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks.
Nikki, you're all so awesome. You're proud, like a beautiful blossom. You're also the best. I really can't rest. You're all so awesome.
Wow. Okay.